Hey traders, Raghee here. Welcome to Charts and Coffee for Tuesday the 27th. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope everyone's doing great. All right, so we are one day in front of tomorrow's FOMC meeting, statement, presser, the whole bit. Actually, the meeting starts today, and then we'll get all the fireworks tomorrow between 2 and 2:30. So as this market prepares for that news, you can take a look at the broader indices, and they are just hovering. Now, they're not retreating. I mean, who knows what's going to happen throughout today, Tuesday's session, and in front of 2 p.m. tomorrow. Who knows? But right now, this market is hovering, if you will, right near those all-time highs as we get ready to kick off this session. And also remember, we're also simultaneously winding down the month, which means we have that rhythm of redemptions that often accompanies the last 8 to 3 days of each month. So plenty going on to keep an eye on. It's just going to be a reaction to anticipation of the Federal Reserve. And then let's see if this market's ready to, I would love to see a little bit of a pullback. And then, let's see if we can't see the trends that are clearly in place in the NASDAQ and in the S&P continue higher. All right. So that's what's on tap for the next 2 days, really, this session and the next. So let's jump over into the questions. Good morning there. Hey, James. There's a 1, 2, 3 setting up on ZC. All right, let's head on over there. The 1, 2, 3 setting up on ZC. So a 1, 2, 3 reversal. Okay. Yep. So for those of you that are not familiar with the 1, 2, 3, here's your 1. Here's your 1 right here. 2, 3, and then we're waiting for the market to take out the swing high. And so, I guess you could have also seen this 1, 2, 3 in here as well. Very small, but there's that. I think one of the things that'll keep you out of trouble is gauging the size of the 1, 2, 3s. So if you were tempted to take the breakout of the first 1, 2, 3 there, look for a minimum of 10 trading sessions, but really no more than 21. So somewhere between 10 and 21 is ideal. There is such a thing as too long. There is such a thing as too short. So yeah, it's that larger one that I would be focused on because of the time to potential breakout. The JT, yeah, right. So the JT is still red. Exactly. So ideally, to your point, James, this has got the precursor for the reversal, right? Because the precursor for the reversal is that we're actually reversing something. And so what we'd like to see is the yellow, mostly on the second or lower row, and then that accompany the break. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's an interesting look at corn futures in terms of what could get us through that. Really for me, the initial hurdle, if you'll take a look, I think for us, there's 2 hurdles here to watch: 580, 600, both psychological levels, 600 being clearly the major and more important, but 580 is nothing to ignore. Pretty interesting setup. Yeah, that's a cool one to keep. That's a cool one to keep an eye on there, James, for sure. All right, so next question is, would I still take the entry of the break? So I don't always like to do that. No. So what I'll often do is I'll let the pattern complete. Let the 1, 2, 3 finish. That's a reversal pattern. So let it confirm the reversal. What I'll usually do, which is not unusual for me, is let it break the levels that I'm looking for, and then let it pull back a little bit after the break. So I like the 1, 2, 3, right? So we have our 1, 2, break the 2 level, and then I wouldn't even mind a retracement back to the 2 or even below. And it's in that I'll look for my long. Yeah, so I will seldom take that trade as a breakout. Seldom. Okay, so thanks for the question. All right, next up is let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of news about China. Shaw, I really haven't been paying that much attention to it, to be quite frank. As far as setups go, I mean, I know there's a breakdown there. There's places you can look. One would be, MCHI. But this is mostly what I've been tracking. MCHI. There's your breakdown there. Look, what's really funny to me, and I'm glad you brought this up, Shaw. What's really funny to me is, again, just this ridiculous amount of momentum attention that the market gets, when in reality, I don't want to sound salty so early in the morning, but it broke down. And what I find just categorically hilarious about the conversation about China breaking down is it's been breaking down since March. So what is it that has the market's attention? Probably these gaps in here. But the truth of the matter is we lost structure back here in March. That's the MCHI. Let's take a look at the FXI. When do we break down and roll over? End of February. What about the K-Web, internet in China? So this is what I mean. It's been in a downtrend for a really long time. Why? And this is such classic financial media stupidity. You guys know I can't stand financial media as a general rule. Really? Talking about it now? But this is what's so interesting, and I'm glad you brought it up, Shaw. This means that now it's got a certain amount of attention. When in reality, I think if most of you are following the structure of the market, this thing was broken way back there. End of February, beginning of March, middle of March. So if I wasn't looking for strength back in this nonsense, I'm certainly not looking for it now. Does that make sense? So thank you for thank you for bringing up what is coming up in the news headlines. This is what I think will probably, now here's where your timing is great. Now that we have the attention like this on the market, you're probably going to start to bring some of the bottom pickers out of the woodwork. And so that becomes really helpful for us. If there's a bottom to get put in, it's usually going to be slide where financial media is not talking about it. All of a sudden, typically, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months later, thanks, financial media. Way to be on the story there, right? But now is the precursor to maybe a 1, 2, 3, maybe some sort of bottoming action. That's the way I look at it, right? So, but look how long this thing has been sliding. It gapped for a couple of days, and all of a sudden, it's made it on Chucklehead TV. So, yeah, that's the way I look at that. And thank you so much for bringing it up, because now there's probably a pretty good opportunity for potential. And this goes back, Betty, this goes to your question there. Same thing. Yeah. So thanks for the question. I really appreciate it. I think now it makes sense to start wondering where that bottoming pattern could come in. All right. Tesla, I'll tell you the truth. Rolex, I could really care less. Tesla is interesting to me only so much so that it is weighted within the XLY, the SPY, and the QQQ. Tesla has yet to get out of its own way. To be frank, sitting at 664 pre-market is meh. I mean, really, I just think that of all the things to focus on right now, there is a really nice pattern that's forming in Tesla, which could be the precursor for a breakout. You can see there's some decent support in here. We're definitely, as you can tell, sort of consolidating. And yeah, I think ultimately we could see some sort of breakout or breakdown. My expectation would be for a break to the upside. But of all the markets to keep an eye on right now, again, from what I like to prioritize, prioritizing trends, I think that there's probably some good earnings setups here. I think Danielle did a really nice Tesla earnings play, but she plays inside that window where I usually have already stopped my play. So it's a nice balance there. So I like the 6-4, 2 weeks in front of earnings, and then Danielle will oftentimes play inside that window, which is cool. And I think she's got a nice winner here, but I won't play this, or nor am I really interested in it at all. Ask yourselves, especially when something like Tesla comes up, other than earnings, right? If it's an earnings play, cool. But, and you've got a strategy for that, awesome. But ask yourself, why has a symbol earned its way onto your watch list? It must earn its way onto watch lists. It has to have structure or some sort of feature that tells you, the trader, that you have an identifiable edge in trading that symbol the way it's behaving right now. That latter part's probably the most important. Is the symbol trading in a way with behavior that's beneficial to the way that you like to look at the market? And for me, it's always going to be trends. So nothing personal to Tesla. It's just, it's not trading in that environment that's useful to me. Okay. So thank you for the question. Next up, Debbie asks, XLI, so industrials, green, yellow. Do I wait to go long? Well, it's on a trend right now, Debbie, right? So it's chop. The question is, do I wait to go long for it to go double green and then a pullback? If you want to trend trade it, yes. If you want to play the chop, you've got to do something like we talked about in the Sector Secrets Mastery, where let me show you what we did in RTY. This is a setup in RTY. This was something that made it to our watch list. See the chop? See it headed down to the bottom area of the chop? That's what I'm talking about. So for XLI, and IWM would have been, obviously the same. For XLI, it's the same thing. So yes, you can wait for the double green and then pullbacks are fair game. Or if it remains yellow, which, by the way, it could. If it remains yellow on the lower row, then it makes sense to wait for overbought or oversold, right? And questions about a lot of the indicators that I use on Thinkorswim and TradingView, how I used them in the mastery on the 2nd, August 2. So basically in a week, just under a week, there'll be a webinar that Monday. So if you're interested in, okay, Rog, chop versus trend, and what are those color-coded Skittles, skipping along the bottom of your chart? We'll talk about a lot about that on the webinar on August 2nd. So pencil that on your calendars there. All right, heck, put it in pen. All right, next question. Walmart. So take a look at Walmart. Again, starting with the primary, the place that I start, I type, so let me kind of give you an insight here. I type in the symbol, right? And even before I look at any of this, that's the first place my eyes go to after I type that symbol. So I type in the symbol, the data pulls up, even before I look at what price is saying, where is it trading? 142, unless it's a new high or a new low, in and of itself, I could care less what price is. What I want to know is, what is the structure? Is it trending? Is it non-trending? Bearish momentum, bullish momentum, whatever. What is the structure? So symbol, boom, right down to that JT multi. Then I'll take a look at what's happening up here. Is it above or below the 200 exponential? Do we have any volume ledges that are looking interesting? What are the colors, the grab candles right now? So price is, kind of the third thing I'll look at. So as we're looking here together, as soon as I know it's yellow, it kind of falls down the list of interest. Now, again, kind of using a checklist type psychology to the market, I'm less interested in the order in which you do it, but I would recommend start with structure, because structure is going to give you the sort of the narrative. It's going to give you sort of if you look at a chart kind of in an architectural way, right? How it's built, how it's designed. You have to start, I think, with the JT multi, because I think what happens if you start looking here, you might build a bunch of bias, and just not care that the market's telling you, yeah, thanks for all this work you did here. I'm looking at candle formations and moving averages and VWAPs and all that stuff. Sadly, I think what happens is you build some sort of bias here, and then you might get down to the bottom where it says, well, something really to do that gives you an edge, and you may ignore that because you've already spent some time. You've got a vested interest in this analysis that you've quickly done. So let the price be sort of the third thing. And I mean, we're talking a quick type, glance, get to work, right? Try that for a little while. Start with structure first. And I think you'll find the end result will be a cleaner, better analysis. So any thoughts on gold? Ravi, I'm long. Yeah, that's my main thought. I mean, is there anything else to say? I mean, what's so long, that I have bullish analysis that justifies that. But I've been in this back and forth. We've been in this in the Sector Secrets room and just kind of waiting for gold to quite literally get the green light and start getting out of its own way. Any thoughts on the RTY? If RTY or IWM were sitting at the bottom of its range, it would be interesting. In the middle, it's a coin flip. Engaging in, so you've got your highs, you've got your lows. IWM, RTY have been moving sideways for some time. This is oversold. This is overbought. This is going to be your edge in chop, the bottom and lower, the bottom, lower, the upper, a higher part of the range. That's where you have your advantage. That's your edge is at the edge in distribution chop. This is in distribution chop. How do I know? I've started with structure first, right? And then structure defined this as overbought and oversold. This just bounced off and oversold as it has done, I think 3 or 4 times earlier. So it's bouncing off this level. Cool. And then in my mind, anything in the middle of this is just a coin flip. Frankly, it's just a coin flip. The best trade on the RTY happened a handful of days ago down in this area. This is just slop. This is a guess. It's going to be up one day, down one day, but I won't engage a market in the middle of its range. If there's anything helpful to be done from here, let it move back down to the low and we'll buy again. Let it move to the upper end and maybe we'll think about a fade, right? We'll think about puts, but in the middle, I want engaged chop in literally the chop within the chop. That's what this is. I want to engage it there. There was already an edge. It happened. It was long. We hit the halfway mark between the chop, which is uncanny how often it stalls. This one did at that spot. And then I'm just going to leave it alone until it gives me an edge again. All right. So let's see. Next up is, will the high natural gas prices inversely affect stocks and utilities like NextEra? Okay, so So, you know what's funny? The brain thinks in stories. I love that you've got a narrative, William, because I think all great trades start with a narrative. But great trades may start with a narrative, but great traders know how to validate or invalidate that narrative. So the how comes down to looking at XLU, which is the ETF that NEE is the number one weighted stock within. Looking at UNG, or the natural gas futures, which are on a tear, right? It confirms the narrative that natural gas is expensive or moving higher. You know, what's expensive, that depends. And then finally confirming it with what NEE is doing. So if that is a narrative, I'm not seeing it play out yet, right? And then please remember, and I'm not dissing, but I call it Michael Burry syndrome. Ever since The Big Short, there have been more traders who have been enticed by the siren song, right, of getting to a trade publicly or largely before the rest of the market does. And if you have the ability to sit through dramatic drawdowns in the process of waiting to be right, you can do that. If not, being early is the same thing as being wrong, because there were other traders that put on that trade in 08. They couldn't sit through the drawdown of the position. And I think a lot of traders might say, wow, you know, I followed somebody into this trade. Seems like it made a lot of sense, but did you validate the narrative? Because usually it starts off with a narrative. Market's overbought, market's oversold. extended, cheap, whatever that narrative is. And then you say, but does the market care about the narrative? And can I confirm it? Listen to me now, believe me later. Very few people can sit through the noise of being to a trade really, really early. So I love the narrative. I've been wondering kind of some of the same stuff, but there's nothing in price action that's telling me now that narrative is syncing up with a trend or a setup, an actual trade that I can take. So again, that's my take. I could be completely wrong, but that's the way I've been navigating these markets for 30 some years. I'll let someone else put on the hero trade. I'll let someone else pick the bottom. I'll let someone else pick the top. I'll wait. I don't mind missing dessert, and I don't mind missing appetizer or dessert, but if I get the meal in the middle, I'm a happy trader. I'll see you all tomorrow for Charts and Coffee. Thank you as always for being here. And I will see you in the futures room here in just a minute. And I'll see you all in the options room at 2 p.m. Eastern. All right. Be good to each other.